it's on. Yes. Just say something.
Lastly, because, Madam Speaker.
Ah, nice. Hearing you clearly.
I do get some vision challenge. So,
yes.
you know, when I don't have natural light, I get a little problem reading.
Okay.
So I'm not saying I'm asking for this all members because to each his own. But if there's somewhere that I can get a light on my stand in this year sometime, I don't know if the technology allows.
In this year?
In this year,
okay.
sometime.
We will see how best we can accommodate.
If you can help me, you know,
yes.
because I do have this.
Yes.
A little eye.
Yes. Yes.
Madam Speaker, I am not like Minister Brewster, who stole my opening lines through all the changing scenes of life, nor many of the other colleagues who gave you scripture and verse. So I confine myself to the simple first line or two of the Our Father's prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. I know in your hearts, Madam Speaker, you would be able to finish that for me. Madam Speaker, I listened very carefully to all the presentations I've gone before. And I have said before now that I do appreciate and enjoy listening to the Minister of Finance and his presentations. But I also have, Madam Speaker, to do justice to the others that come before. Minister Brewster is not here, but it is the most boisterous I've ever heard him. A new sense of confidence. It may well be, I don't know, Madam Speaker. I'm told it's bravado. Madam Speaker, I also just listened to the Minister of National Mobilization, full of confidence and enthusiasm. It's a little unfortunate that she finds my Senator John and the rest of us to be out of place, but through all the changing scenes of life. There are a lot of numbers and figures that are being called, Madam Speaker. A reasonable conclusion, burial or no burial, is that we never had it so good before. It reminds me of one for Calypsonians. My cup is full and running over. Running over. My cup is full and running. By telling you, Dum is grammar school. Can't call it that stage name. Thank you. Thank you, my honourable student. Madam Speaker, so we hear as, in some cases, as much as 18,000 people got this, 5,000 here, 3 over here, 2 over there, 1 over there. I can't keep pace with the numbers. Save and except to conclude, as my honourable colleague, member for South Leeward, indicated that burial, just as COVID and as did Soufriere, revealed the soft underbelly of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. That was a Kenneth John expression with respect to cricket. Because when we had the volcanic eruption and we were attending to the red zone, and we come down here to Shating, the people in the greens say, what about me too? You know, you go on to the south, and that was in the north to burial. You give out 10,000, 15,000, you hold them in the park or Orange Hill like sheep. You still hear in the loud crescendo, what about me? And it is a straight admission, Madam Speaker, without all the semantics and carrying-ons, that the country is hungry, the country is poor. That's what the food box says. We are in a catch-ass stage in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Ass is always a difficult word, you Madam Speaker, but that's what it is, people catching the nanin. Thank you. We're catching with nanin. And too large a portion of the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines cannot make ends meet without a government handout. That's the fact. However you want to qualify handout, hand up, whatever it is, people are significantly dependent upon government to get a basic meal or a provision. I don't have a lot of time to spend here, Madam Speaker, because time is against me. Madam Speaker, I want to make some quick points in passing, and I cannot develop on them. And one at least is a warning. I see in the estimates formally, Madam Speaker, and I've cautioned about this when we had the finance meeting, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines cannot and must not interfere in the affairs of St. Vincent and the Grenadines Football Federation. If they want, and they should, make a contribution to the sport, football, netball, or whichever sport, and make it directly to the association and stand back and do not give the sense of interference or meddling in the affairs of the federation. FIFA in particular is extremely strong on this point. Already the fact that it's in the appropriations bills, in the estimates, is a concern. And when you amplify that by saying that they're going to compete for the Prime Minister's Cup, it can be construed as the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines interfering through football to give themselves a political advance, and that the federation itself is not in charge of the affairs. I've always said that if I were in a position of authority, as I would one day, Madam Speaker, I'll give them about $5 million in football, because we have such natural talent, and the team has to play, travel, and get better. We are on a roll at the moment with the coach, and at the different levels. The women in particular seem to have really stepped up, and I applaud them. And they, I believe the technical team is as good as we can get. And I'm particularly excited that it is local professionals at work doing that job. I say no more, Madam Speaker. 7 to accept to say no, Madam Speaker. No, it's all a balloon. With little or no money, I once lit the whole of the Victoria Park. I said that before inside the fair. Hung lights on the poles. The force of the floodlight football played in St. Vincent was handled by myself. I sold the lights to Rodney Thompson, deceased now, God bless his soul. He continued, and we made progress. The first time the netball court was lit, I was at Vinlet, and that was a project of the manager then, Toby Huggins, that we adopted sport, and we adopted netball, and we lit the courts. So, if they take it to another level, fine. But when we get in office, we also will step up. But that's a time and a conversation to be raised later, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I just want to say quickly to the Honourable Minister of Finance. I know sometimes we can get ahead of ourselves, because I saw it very carefully and I didn't see all the pejorative remarks you made with respect to the opposition leader captured in print. Some of them was when he spoke off the cuff. But you can do better than, some of the insults that are heard. For example, I forgive you that you don't literally speak intend for us to suffer and die, but to the extent you repeat those things over and over again, and then you add it politically, the disdain is unhelpful. So I'm saying, I know, I don't have much time. Spare me the crosstalk. I want to tell you straight up. You see, just like how your father loves and appreciates you, and he doesn't want anybody to hurt you, it's the same thing that my family and other people's family think about them, I organize as to what I should say it or not, I have a son just like you, my fourth son, just like you are your father's fourth son. He's a lieutenant colonel in the Marine Corps of the United States of America. Two ranks below being a general. How do you think he feels when you think of his father this way? My mother used to say something. What the hell do I ask know about my child? If I was young, I'd come the steps to ask him that, Stop speaking to us like that, or we'll return you the favor. I was in particular saddened that the Prime Minister, your dad, came here and took my senator and her family into this parliament without justification. She's good, decent, and upright. And if she can't stand up, and she did stand up to handle for herself, we will defend her and defend her to a hilt. Because I don't cast aspersion to any of your senators. In fact, I get along with them all. And we try to avoid it. Let's have a little bit more respect for ourselves. You know? We all want others to think good about ourselves, you know? Madam Speaker, this budget exercise is one in which we have to pay very careful attention to. I've heard different presentations of different value, and I'm not going to put a mark on them. Everybody present themselves in the way that they see and understand things best. That's fine with me. But it's clear that we don't all have the same kind of understanding of what a budget is all about. I would try to give my interpretation, my understanding of this budget to the best of my ability, Madam Speaker. And I would want to fashion my contribution around whether the Minister of Finance's call for this budget to achieve and advance our sustainable development approach any further along the line. And we would be naive to say that in some areas we haven't made progress, but also we have to be very cautious in the areas and the pitfalls that lie ahead. And I will speak to that, Madam Speaker. But what I want to do in that exercise, Madam Speaker, in looking at the budget as presented by the Honourable Minister of Finance, is to see whether it passes muster for credibility. Is it truthful? Is it honest? Is it accurate? Or do we find in it a sufficiency of loopholes where we have bent the analysis and misrepresented the facts? I also want to have a sense, Madam Speaker, that we are not presenting an image of our St. Vincent and the Grenadines in such a way that we are ignoring our reality, Madam Speaker. And when I look very carefully at what is before us, Madam Speaker, we have to be extremely careful in the direction of our St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It seems to me that both sides present arguments, and we are in a contest for which of us are poor and which are not rich. Well, I don't know which one of them over there are not a millionaire, but maybe, I don't know. Jimmy, I believe you. I believe you. It has to be the other St. Clair, Honourable, the Honourable Minister of Health. I accept his word. I accept his word. But you know, Madam Speaker, the Honourable Prime Minister has introduced a class of poverty in this country. The genteel poor. I've never heard that expressed before. And he said the university should study it. Maybe if he could get up from where he is upstairs and I understand why he's resting, he will defend that. But it was his way of understanding that this country of ours is mired in poverty. So I start today with the submission, Madam Speaker, that St. Vincent is a poverty-rich country. We are a poverty-rich country. So much so now that we have made poverty a commodity. Unfortunately, not many people want to buy it. And we are left as the principal consumers of that poverty. To the extent that it would appear that even in our budget exercises, we are exploiting the poverty of the nation. If that is not so, then I apologize. But Madam Speaker, I look through the capital programs for the Ministry of Housing. We'll build 1,000 houses there. Financing, local. We'll build another X number there, financing local. It's only when we get down to the end, Madam Speaker, we see that we have to depend on grant. Our friends Taiwan, significant, substantial. Now, I don't want to say go too far into this Taiwan's contribution, because that will have implications. But maybe let me just say it here now as I see it now, because I'm not squaring off or looking for issues with anyone else, nor is our party. Because I think that's inclusive the fact that the president of Taiwan may be here sometime this year. I think I heard that last year. If the president of Taiwan came to St. Vincent and the Grenadines in the middle of this year, I would construe it to be interference in the politics of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. It's an electoral year. I said my interpretation of his presence here in an election year would be construed by me. I am entitled to an opinion as interference into the political affairs of a sovereign state. And you don't jump too high and jump off your horse, because you can't have it both ways. Because when we had Taiwan out of the Argyle International Airport, receiving India, we pulled them out the line, So today we want them to come out, the next day we don't want them. And we push them and pull them here according out to our ideology and ideology. It's major talking. So don't come with them rank for me. Madam Speaker, too much of what I hear from the other side at times comes over here to me to be the voices and opinions of people who have an entitlement. An entitlement group. Somehow or the other, they were born into rulership of this land. And we are so obstructionist and out of place to want to have a say. But let me let it be known to the Minister of Finance, because I think some other colleagues know better. A lot of what you're sitting on right now is on the backs of many of us who are on this side of the house. We have helped to build St. Vincent. When you're talking about what you can do, and I ask them to be judged by what you can do, there are very many of you can say, this is what I have done, or we have done. Starting with myself. Because several of the institutional and other arrangements in this society, I can point to my handiwork of where I have built. It's only this morning, for example, as listening to the news, of the retirement of the Deputy Commissioner of Police, Fergus. And it seems to me that more than likely he would have been in my class of recruits too. Yeah, because since 91 and thereabout, I was teaching. And I believe the Commissioner of Police may have just have escaped by a year or so, or it might have been there, and I didn't remember him. But certainly I remember Superintendent Boudreaux's brother, Dwayne, being in the class and so forth. I don't say that as a matter of weighing a badge, but simply to say that the institutional contributions are there. Madam Speaker, I'm asking for the correction and clarification of the Honourable Prime Minister, Minister of Finance. I think you did make the comment that we are at the stage now that the per capita income of St. Vincent and the Grenadines is something on our average about $10,000. That's correct? US? That's what you said. So on about $27,000. That's the per capita income. Divided by 12, the average Vincentian owns $2,000 per month. That's what it's in, $2,200. That's the average. Well, that doesn't square with the economist, Honourable Fitzbramble, that many people don't make $14 per day. But I tell you, as the representative for Central Kingstown, if I reach down 6 o'clock, there's somebody in the street looking for food. If I leave at 6, there's somebody still looking for dinner. So I can't bring myself to believe that you're really at that level of development, that the average Vincentian owns $2,200 per month. I know averaging it out like that is ridiculous, but that's what the per capita mean, because they're the highs and lows. So I am not trying to mislead. But I'm saying it is removed from the Vincent reality, because today alone we heard that something like nearly 20,000 people currently, burial or no burial, souffre or no souffre, COVID or no COVID, are dependent on this government for food, for clothes, for shelter, and for the general well-being. So let us disabuse ourselves of that big lie, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I am forced today to do something that I've done not once, not twice, not 3 times, but reinforcement doesn't hurt. And that's to go back to the historical reality of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I want to go back, Madam Speaker, to something I shared before in this Honourable House, because I want to zero in on a particular subject matter here. Madam Speaker, in 2007, the Director of Audit at that time spoke to the questions of special warrants. And I'll read what he said. While special warrants, Minister of Finance, I want you to follow the discussion with me, and I'm prepared to be educated by you and to accept your clarifications and explanations. While special warrants provide authority for expenditure, these warrants are not, Minister Brewster, special warrants are not a source of funds. It's not a source of funds. It's an authority to spend money, but not a source. A contingencies fund constitutes funds, monies set aside for the purpose of meeting unforeseen expenditure. If you go to the constitution of this country, Madam Speaker, and I'm going to read it in its entirety because this is becoming a serious matter, and I don't know if it's a ULP thing, an NDP thing, or a Labour Party thing, but if it was done before, I am at the point where I'm satisfied now that something is fundamentally wrong in our interpretation and application and use, misuse and abuse of special warrants. Section 72 of the Finance Provisions, Chapter 5. There shall be such provisions as made by Parliament for the establishment of a contingencies fund and for authorizing the Minister for time being responsible for finance, if satisfied that there has arisen an urgent and unforeseen need for expenditure for which no other provisions exist, to make advances from that fund to meet that need. My interpretation is that when we don't have enough monies to do certain things, we go to the contingencies fund for monies outside of what was appropriated. Where any advance is made from the contingencies fund, a supplementary estimate shall as soon as possible be laid before the House. And where the supplementary estimate has been approved by the House, a supplementary appropriation bill shall be introduced as soon as possible in the House for the purpose of, hear this, replacing the amount so advanced. This is not the current practice in this government, and it has been abused over and over again. But way back in 2007, the Director of Audit had this further to say. The disregard of Section 72 of the Constitution is a prime example of what constitutionalism is not about. So the Directors of Audit have been clear that the way we have been using special warrants is not in accord with the Constitution of this country. Now, well, we'll get to that. Madam Speaker, I know, I got to speed it up. You'll recall that in this Honourable House, I once asked a question of the special warrants, and the Minister of Finance at the time admitted that he was wrong, he was at fault, and that he had spent over $100 million without the lawful authority of the Parliament. So today, Madam Speaker, let's revisit special warrants, and let's look at the audit. The 2007 report, which I just did, Madam Speaker, and you will see that clearly something is not on all fours. Madam Speaker, that was 2007. In 2020, Madam Speaker, I'm fast forwarding from 2007 to 2020. Page 12, bullet 210, Madam Speaker. It tells us, this is 2020, 102 special warrants totaling $60 million, $983,000 were approved by the Minister of Finance to supplement the budgetary estimates. I know, it's crisis time, COVID, volcanic eruptions. The last line, Madam Speaker. This is 2020. However, the amount spent remained unappropriated. at the end of the year 2020. This is not even refunded, you know, but we didn't even come to get the permission of the Parliament. Madam Speaker, we can't run a country like that. And this is 13 years after the matter had been drawn to our attention. No wonder, Madam Speaker, that in 2008, the Director of Audit then had said, she qualified the statement, you know, because of the significance of the matters described above, I have not been able to obtain sufficient appropriate evidence to provide a basis for all audit opinions. Accordingly, I do not express an opinion on the financial statements. In short, she's saying she don't know if what the government is saying is true or not. You can't be comfortable if you're a Minister of Finance or Prime Minister or government, and those things are coming from those parties who are responsible for looking at the books in St. Vincent and Grenadines. Madam Speaker, I said that this is a say what you like, do what you like government. You remember Gao? Yeah. Say what you like, do what you like. This time meet. All right. Madam Speaker, 212 of 220, page 13. Small section, Madam Speaker. An amount of $202,000 was included in the financial statements under the estimates of capital expenditure for the Ministry of Health. However, the amount, although included on the Ministry of Health capital of the 2020 estimate, revenue and estimate, this is what I want to read, was not approved by Appropriation Act number 1 of 2020. That's what I'm getting at. Consistently you're going through, I just pull in one or two of them, but over and over and over again, the government is doing what they like. Just like they didn't go for tenders, Madam Speaker. Just like they didn't go for tenders. And in this Parliament, Madam Speaker, let me make sure I get it in before I seem to run out of time. When the Honourable Leader of the Opposition drew attention to amortization, and the Minister of Finance would look at us straight-eyed, clear-eyed, and say, look, the way I see these things is that, what you said about that authorization again? It's part of other receipts. How authorization can be part of other receipts? The first responsibility the government have to do from the recurrent monies that we have is to pay our bills. You can't even say, I'm paying the public servants and then I'm paying for goods and services and I put aside some transfers and then we're left over, I will pay my debt. Because if you don't pay bills, you ain't going to get no more to borrow. So you have to make sure you pay your amortization, you have to pay interest expense, you have to pay sinking fund expense. And the evidence, Madam Speaker, is that that is not taking place. So, Madam Speaker, if you go through the audits of this government, you will see over and over again, that the governments are over the heads in the finance of this country. And a lot of what we are doing are not accounted for. And that is why a general election is so important, Madam Speaker, because it will be the mother of all audits. My words, my opinion, to which I'm entitled. And you see all this handout, this 500 there, and this 800 there, and this 5,000 for the next 3 months, and this 7,000 for the next 10 months, and this $1,800. All that is to buy votes and support to avoid the challenge of misbehaving in public office. They're mortally afraid to leave government. But one day, we'll know the truth, Madam Speaker. And I'll go through, because I've been trained for this. And this is my time before I leave the Parliament, to represent the people in the way that I'm doing, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, you know, when we look at what's really happening, Madam Speaker, still in 2020, Madam Speaker, page 12. In addition to two supplementary appropriation acts, number 4 of 2020 and Act 9 of 2020, which were approved in the House Assembly, authorizing total expenditure of $67 million and $36 million for financial year. And I asked, did this come from the contingencies fund? No, because it's not a special warrant. So, I read the part before again, Madam Speaker, that we had 102 special warrants. Huh? And I want to read what it says. For the 102 special warrants, totaling $60 million, this is apart from what went above there, you know, were approved by the Minister of Finance to supplement, to add on to the budgetary estimates. Special warrants cannot be in a position, because at the end of the day, whatever is spent on the special warrants, the balances in the budget, MP Fitz, help me, must come back to that which was appropriated. It cannot be in excess of what was appropriated. So the Minister of Finance cannot arbitrarily, unilaterally, otherwise, unless they get a supplementary bill. And this is not what this is saying. The amount spent, but remember, Leader of the Opposition, let me finish the paragraph. The amount spent remain unappropriated at the end of the financial year 2020. These are large monies
After 24 years.
for which you're taking us for granted, Madam Speaker. And coming here, and in a sense, Senator Honourable Ashell saying, I want the evidence. Well, this is the evidence. Page 13, an amount of $202,000 was included in the financial statements under the estimates of capital expense for the ministry. Well, I read that already, I think, because I'm not reading strictly from the draft. But, Madam Speaker, let me just go to page 14 of the 2020 reports, Madam Speaker. At the top, it says, the financial statements have shown that the estimates for recurrent and capital expenditure were raised by 37 and a speed reading at $126 million respectively. The revision in the estimate is attributable to the amounts approved by special warrants and 2 supplementary appropriation acts passed in the House of Assembly to finance the health crisis resulting in the COVID-19 pandemic and acquisition of the Bookament Bay Resort. That is us putting money. We have shares in the Bookament Bay. We have shares in Sandals, or it is our contribution. Is it the taxpayers helping private partnerships? I'm all for Sandals. I don't want anything that's said to be construed to be otherwise, Madam Speaker. But again, it is using monies in the way that you figure that is best suited for your purpose. So we give them a pass on that, Madam Speaker. We come down to 214, Madam. The total receipts for government bonds, 204D, was not accounted for in the government accounting system, resulting in an understatement of capital revenue of $11 million. And the Director of Audit rightfully asked the Accountant General to explain that. You know what he says? Revenue of $11 million received from the Bank of ST.VINCENT and the Grenadines, $30 million bond, was deposited at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank and used as part payment of $35 million bond that matured in 2020. The revenue was not brought to account in smart stream. You know what that is, Madam Speaker, for the man listening to me? I only have 10 minutes and I have to speed up, Madam Speaker, and I'll get there. I'll skip some of the things. It's saying that, among others that I can produce to the Madam Speaker, is the state where we have reached, where we have to take a loan to pay a loan. So you borrow money from NIS, you float a bond, the money don't even go into government books. It goes straight to NIS. You give them back the money. You borrow a loan from VINLEC, you float a bond, the money goes straight to VINLEC, it don't pass to the government. We can't operate like that, Madam Speaker. But let me just speed read, Madam Speaker. I go here to 2004, 2005. I go back deliberately, Madam Speaker, to show that with all of this impression that has been created that is swimming in money, it is not so. Sleepless nights. The year 2000 to 2005, Madam Speaker, The highest achievement they had was 19% of the money that was voted for the government. 19%. The year, Madam Speaker, 2009-2013, the government capital revenues were $843 million short over that 5-year government cycle of what they projected, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let us look at the last 10 years of the government. The years 2009 to 2013, shortfalls, 130 million in 09, 83 million in 10, 72 million in 11, 54 million in 13, 151 million in 14. 2016 to 2020, Madam Speaker, these are the annual shortfalls, you know. You still get 224, you got 146. You still get 298, you get 175. You still get 233, you get 134. You still get 292, you get 133. You still get 310 in 2020, you get 99. You didn't even get 100. But yet, all people are on a per capita income, and we're going to be graduate just now to high income. God help us, St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Honourable Member, you have 10 minutes remaining.
Thanks for your generosity, Madam Speaker. Currently, Madam Speaker, in this cycle here, this one year, 2021 to 2025, the government has tallied $1 billion in shortfalls between what they projected that they'll get on the capital receipts and what actually happened. So that is much closer to our reality, Madam Speaker. So if it is that the government, Madam Speaker, is not bringing any bacon in the way that it forecasted, what really is the Vincentian reality? Well, the reality is that since the ULP administration has been in office, Vincentian taxpayers have been forced to go deeper and deeper into the pockets to keep this government afloat. In the first period of government, 2001 to 2005, they raised $843 million in taxes from the Vincentian population. In 2006 to 2010, we had to find $2.6 million to keep our country going. 2011 to 2015, $2.6 billion stabilized a little bit. 2016 to 2020 is $3.1 billion in taxes collected from the people of this country. 2021 to now, 3.8, approaching $4 billion in taxes. And the tax money is going up and up and up. So that's where my context, Madam Speaker, of sustainability arises. Madam Speaker, if what I'm saying has any truth, then we have to get into a deeper conversation. And I want to be able to have some of that conversation now. And this is particularly based, Madam Speaker, on page 87 of the budget address of the Honourable Minister of Finance, where he speaks, page 87, of debt sustainability, fiscal responsibility, and good governance. Madam Speaker, I am putting it to the Honourable Minister of Finance. We had a presentation for the Minister of Tourism, a good presentation, I must dare say, and it encourages me what is taking place in the tourism sector. I'm encouraged, you know, great progress. But the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Madam Speaker, the high current debt load, Madam Speaker, and I'm reading some of what I wrote after the thing, including domestic and foreign debt, is a pressing issue for us and for our economic stability. With the current debt to GDP ratio of around 94%, Madam Speaker, the government must urgently develop buffers to avoid a potential crisis. Madam Speaker, and I'm speaking to myself now and into the ears of the Minister of Finance, rather than judging the debt sustainability based on the ability to pay, Madam Speaker, which we must consider whether the debt contract has stimulated economic development and whether the greater percentage of the population can meet their basic needs and whether poverty, inequality, crime, and social ills have decreased. on all the measures given by the Ministry of National Mobilization, every one of those, poverty, inequality, crime, social ills have increased. More and more young boys have to be housed, more people into the mental hospital, more women's shelters need, everything negative is worsening. But I want to get on quickly, madam. We have two questions we have to ask of the Minister of Finance. Can we sustain a fiscal deficit indefinitely? And if he's honest, and I believe he is, the answer is no. And can our public debt continue to expand without bankrupting the country? The answer is also no. I drew a reference earlier to you, Madam Speaker, of being in a water tank and the water is climbing and climbing and climbing. And I'm saying it is right below our mouth now. It will drown us if we continue this way. Can we generate a 3.5% primary surplus, Madam Speaker, to the GDP, to develop buffers and reduce debt to a tolerable 60%? Clearly, we're not going to make the 2035 target where we'll start to see this decline. This is a crucial step towards achieving debt sustainability. And then, Madam Speaker, I ask the fundamental question which I want the Honourable Minister of Finance to address, because this is where the sustainable development issue hits the road. What impact have these investments that we're speaking about had on various sectors of the economy before and after the debt was contracted? So I ask, have we diversified our economy? What new industries have come on board, Madam Speaker? The last big change we had was for various East Korean Fall Mills business, an import substitution entity. And then we had the brewery and the East Korean metals and all the import substitution models that we couldn't think about. I heard it in the tourism minister's presentation. What value-added industries were we bringing here? We are seeing that in tourism and in the creative arts. I think I got that from him. So I'm helping to answer the questions you might, Mr. Minister of Finance. Am I writing this so terrible that I'm getting some trouble to you? Are we focusing our economy, Madam Speaker, on our core strengths? What is our core strength? Agriculture. The important pillar of the economy. And the marine sector, as the Honourable Member for the Northern Grenadines said, are we doing that? The answer is no. I presented in the Parliament before to say the capital program of the Ministry of Agriculture is woefully poor. I almost said piss poor, which will offend you, Madam Speaker. It would, I will not say that, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I will leave it when I said our core strengths, Madam Speaker. How much effort are we putting, Madam Speaker, to address this state monopoly that St. Vincent is? That's what it is, We are so dependent on the state for everything that the day it gets a little cold, everything collapses. Because the private sector simply cannot carry the country, Madam Speaker. How much effort, Madam Speaker, are we putting in to develop a strong private sector so we could have more public-private sector partnerships, Madam Speaker, to take the taxman's hand out of our pockets? And I gave the example before, the hospital, and I'm insisting on that. The current medical schools that are here and those that want to come could, between them, take up 50% equity in the hospital and make it a medical school and reduce the tax burden that we have to pay to suffering that. That could happen at the port as well. Several companies in St. Vincent and the Grenadines will be glad to be shareholders in the port to save us from those problems, Madam Speaker. So we have to look at those issues very carefully, Madam Speaker. And my pet peeve always, and this is relevant to the port, and I've heard MP Bramble say it over and over again, there's no issue with the port. We need the infrastructural development. We had this conversation, Minister of Finance, and how much are we going to carry the construction sector that is not an exporter, Our construction sector is not tradable. We don't sell it abroad. It's not like C.O. Williams where we sell in stone and aggregate and artisans abroad to bring money, Madam Speaker. When are we going to see this drive that will become an export-led economy? And I'm saying I don't care what you're blue in. You can talk, you can vex a major, you can call me all kinds of names. But it's not going to make a difference in this country until we become an export-led and driven economy. Because we cannot develop and provide enough for this 100,000 people in this country, in this 150 square mile island, unless we are on the eastern seaboard of North America, and we're into Europe, and we expansively into the Caribbean. And we are not making any progress. And who do you blame? I blame the Minister of Agriculture. Because he's had more than enough to turn around this economy on agriculture and the marine economy alone. And it's not happening, Madam Speaker. And you know why it is critical, Madam Speaker? Because fundamentally what has been spoken about here, important that drive as tourism is, and we applaud it and salute it, Madam Speaker, it still by and large represents a top-down approach. Build it and they'll come, but build it and we will not own it. We'll make up the beds. We'll provide the security where we boot to. We'll cut the lawn. But we will not, the CEOs, the CFOs, or the information specialists inside the entity. Because the management contract people will bring all of that to themselves, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, establishing the efficient debt. Tell me I have 2 minutes, Madam Speaker, so go into my
no, well, your time is just about over.
So you will not allow me to say 1 minute of my constituency.
Take the 1 minute, go ahead.
Madam Speaker.
And counting.
I hardly, Dr. Friday, this is a US minute. I hardly have to convince my people of Central Kingstown that I'm representing them. Health, I just want to make sure that this promise is not a promise and a comfort of fool. Last year, we were looking at drawing and designs. I asked if we prefer the land. Nobody said, in fact, can we pay for it? But I hope we have paid for it. And I hope that this year, the money that's in the budget is towards beginning architectural design and so on and so forth. And put down what you have to put down, because it can come in useful, but I can change it when I get there. Sports and culture, I'm going to like Sharps playing field, I'm going to like Green, I'm going to like Lagerheit. All of them. All those people who still have to go across the bridge in Lagerheit and coconut tree branches and pallet boards and vinlock poles, we will fix that. You have been punished long enough. Madam Speaker, I'm still committed. When I spoke of it before, Minister Honourable Daniel said that $50 million may not be enough for the agro-processing plant. And that's a big challenge, because if we put down the plant now with all the water has to go in it, the question is whether we have enough throughput to keep that factory going. But we have to start somewhere. We have to get VINLEC to start supporting a particular sector of agriculture. We've got to get water authority to do it. We've got to get all of the state actors get involved in it, because they have artificial rents that could be involved in getting it there. Infrastructure roads, like everybody else. Feeder roads to the agriculture, Gobby and Gay Road. Trigger Ridge, we'll see if we could come to from Dorset to Hill. You know what I mean? Madam Speaker, maybe the last one I want to close, because they're asking where the money coming from. The debate has been going on, it's been going on. And we've been running from it. But at last, Madam Speaker, at last, the governor of the central bank has now identified that the Citizens by Investment Program is here to stay. It's here to stay. Yeah, because if it's here to stay, my guys in the blocks. All right. Let me reasonable and balance. To be continued, Madam Speaker.
Thank you.
Much obliged.
Very well. Further debate. Yes, I recognize.
The budget? Just watch and see.